Okay, so let's start drawing a figure. On this image, I'm just going to use the figure's head, and I'll use that head to measure down his body. As you can see, it fits roughly 3 times down to his hands, and I'll measure the sides as well, and it's roughly 3/4 of a head, and then a head and a little bit to his elbow. Then I'm going to mark in the points that are key points around his body, such as his shoulders and his elbows and his knees. Marking in all of those points and measuring them out, then I'm going to almost like putting little boxes around each of his limbs, just using the shadows of the limbs to kind of give me the edge of the boxes that I'm going to be putting around his limbs, his torso as well. And then when we go to put in the detail, it's a lot easier. So I'm just marking around his legs, almost like putting little 3-dimensional boxes around the parts of his body, and so gradually adding more and more detail. When it comes to hands, everyone gets a bit scared of the hands. Just measure them out the same as you would every other feature. I like to just mark where the edges of the fingers go. Same way, just put them into a box so that you can add the details later, but there you know where everything goes, and so you'll end up with something that looks a little bit like this, and then you can gradually add in a little bit more of the detail. We're not too concerned with getting great realistic detail. We just want to get the proportions of the body correct. Once we get the proportions correct, then you can spend as much time as you like getting the details right, especially if you're drawing with a live person in front of you. You want to get the basic shapes of the person's body in as quickly as possible, just in case they move, and then you can put the details in later as you can look at the person in more detail. So with this drawing, we've taken it through to getting a little bit more of the detail in, and so you got a rough figure drawing. So this is the first sort of experiments with just getting proportion correct with the figure. As I said, we're not concerned with getting realistic sort of figure drawing at the moment. We're just concerned with getting a nice set of proportions. Okay, so I'm going to do this again. This time I've marked out the edges of the head and measured it into the body. I've measured also how far the head, if I just tilt my head on the side, I can measure out where the limbs go, and so blocking in those areas. Then I'm just going to work into the blocked in sort of shapes, give you the idea of how you can get a little bit more detail into your drawing. So you just sort of use the blocks that you've put in as kind of your guide, and you gradually can add more and more detail into the drawing. So just, from this point you can take your time and just put a bit of the detail in. Afterwards you can have a look at it and see what bits you might want to add or subtract to kind of give it a bit more depth. The same thing now with the female figure, just measuring how many times the head fits in. This time you can use any method of measurement that you like. I measure the angles out of her head as opposed to her body length, and measure the entirety. Once I've measured the head into the body, I can measure the entire of the body and tilt it down so that it will fit into the rest of the drawing. And then I can mark out where the knee is, where the legs end, and where her hand sort of fits. You can use any method you like to measure out the drawing. You don't have to use the exact method I've done. I just use this, and as you get used to it, that's the method that you use. So, marking in the areas of where her knees go and where her elbow and her shoulders go and her hand, and then I just block it in the same as before, using rectangles and like little boxes all around the parts of the body, and then I begin to add the detail in so that you can get a more accurate proportion.